I've got two great guests in studio with me today to not talk about the eclipse, but maybe we'll bring it up. Who knows? Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury and Matt Colbenson from the Mason County Sheriff's Office, who is the school resource officer for all the schools in Mason County, 13 schools. So we'll talk with both of those guys. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
Thanks for coming on the air with me. Nice to meet you and talk with you. Matt, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, how you became a school resource officer.
Well, I've been with the county here for about 6 years. Recently been working with the community, primarily out in the Agate and the Timberlake area as a community officer out there. Loving it. I've got an opportunity last year to apply for the school resource officer position that came up. To my understanding, we haven't had one in quite a while. So we've had the opportunity to do that. It's something very important. I know that to the sheriff, that's something that's kind of his big goal we've had for a while there to get that going, and we've had an opportunity to do that, and I applied for it, and I'm here right now talking to you.
Well, he must have got it then. How did he get it? Are you the one that does this? Or?
Yeah, as you know, I taught school for a number of years, and then I also was a school resource officer and worked in the gang unit in Thurston County, did school resource for 9 years for Sheriff Edwards, and this was something I felt was really, really important. And last year, I think when the issue came up that we had an alleged active shooter in the schools, I think people really made a believer out of a lot of people. It was something we've worked to do. And so we had put together, just previous to that, a program to have a school resource officer, and I did a little bit differently. I brought in school principals and administrators from the different districts, and they did the interviews on the deputies. And I felt that if the deputy's going to be working in the school, they're going to be working for that individual directly, and I wanted to make sure that they got the personality type that they were looking for. So they actually, Chief Sperling brought them all in. Chief Sperling and I just sat in on the interviews and watched the interviews, but they formulated their own questions, and when we brought a school resource officer from another agency also to sit in and ask questions, and they did the interviews and made the selection.
How long have school resource officers been prevalent in schools? I don't necessarily remember them when I was in elementary, but maybe towards the end of high school.
That's a great question. I have kind of a good answer for you. One of the first school resource officers that I'm aware of in the state of Washington was in Mason County. And that school resource officer was 1980 and 1981 when I was a junior and senior in high school. Deputy Dave Peterson, who went on to be a retired sergeant from this office, and I actually went on to work for Dave as a deputy. Dave was in the Shelton High School as a school resource officer in 80 and 81, I believe it was. I know my senior year he was there. And then a number of years I came back and Dave had made sergeant and I worked on his shift. But that was one of the first in the state. Wow. And then when I left Mason County and went to Thurston County, that's why I went over there, was to teach the DARE and the gang resistance education and training programs and do a school resource as a teacher and a police officer.
A lot of times kids' first interaction with officers and law enforcement is in the back of the car when mom or dad gets pulled over, and it could go either way from there through the rest of your life. So you're in school, though. You deal with these kids all the time. Is it more of these two kids are fighting each other and someone needs to be adjudicated? Or do you kind of do a lot more of the meeting with the kids, showing that you're not a scary guy and police are not scary folks, things like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of one of our goals, too, is to be a mentor and provide, a lot of times we have, in today's we're getting painted with a broad paintbrush, law enforcement is, and provide that professional appearance and professional person in the schools, and just be really, working with them that way. Yeah.
It helps the parents, I'm sure, to see an officer's vehicle, if not there all the time, but knowing that you do go around to the different schools. How much time do you make at each school? 13 across the whole county? We
haven't established that yet. Our first month is going to be to kind of figure out what we're doing here. Not necessarily what we're doing, but kind of, like a schedule or whatnot. Yeah. There's literally 13 schools from Miriam Knight to Sandhill Elementary, everything in between. And so we don't necessarily want to set a pattern of when we're going to show up and whatnot. But kind of set to talk to school administrators and say, hey, we're going to be here. Is something that you need us to work on or whatnot? Maybe a class to teach on, law enforcement.
Oh,
or whatnot.
yeah. Okay.
So kind of touch bases with them before we show up and let them know we'll be in the area. And we're not only just be in the schools, but also providing traffic enforcement in school zones too.
Sure.
So
that's an important thing. As like
absolutely.
schools getting ready to go back, that remember, there will be kids walking around just 25 miles an hour. Watch for the lights. You'll see kids all over the place, the flaggers and everything.
It's tremendously important. I think sometimes that, as Matt was saying, this broad brush painting, until you've been somebody that's been out and worked in the schools, people want to say, oh, that the kids are scared of the police. Not even close. You get out there and you're playing foursquare at recess time. I was teaching classes on drug education and self-esteem and all kinds of things as we went through. We had 3 deputies at Thurston County teaching less schools than what he'll have. But we were in schools 8 hours a day, and sometimes during the day we'd move from school to school to school. Each hour we'd jump in the car and be down in another district and do another class. And that, I think, was one of the best programs that we ever had in Thurston County, because we were seeing over 5,000 kids a year, the 3 of us. And you multiply that out as 8 or 9 years, how many people in your county that you've met?
Yeah.
And you can't go a day. Last year I was at a program in Belfair, and walked into a program, and this young woman came up to me and said, I'm sure you look like the policeman that was a policeman in my school at Rainier Elementary School when I was in the 6th grade. Okay, that's been almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
Knew exactly who I was. And it's just amazing how that follows you throughout the state of Washington and everywhere you go in businesses and things.
Well, there you go. They have something to look forward to then.
There we
20
go.
years down the line.
Absolutely.
I remember when, and you gave me some good pieces of information.
It's great.
That's cool. Sheriff Salisbury, Matt, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Enjoy the eclipse if you're going to be out there.
We will. We'll be there.
I'm
I was
sure.
in Madras, Oregon, Thursday, so it was
You
interesting.
were?
Yeah, I was on a motorcycle ride for Make-A-Wish Foundation, or actually it's a new charity that we're riding for this year. We were in Madras, leaving Madras when everybody was coming in. I was really glad we were leaving.
I bet you were.
It was incredible.
Pretty amazing. Some of
So-
the pictures of these new cities, basically, that
Yes.
popped up overnight.
Beautiful places over there, but there were so many people.
Wow. All right. Thank you much.